Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Always fun to be back.
Today we're exploring, well, I guess you could say we're on a quest for peace of mind,
A worthy quest for sure.
an untroubled mind.
Yeah.
And our guide for this exploration is Herbert J.
Oh, interesting.
and his book, The Untroubled Mind. Have you read this one?
I have, yeah. It's an interesting one. He was a medical doctor
Oh, wow. Okay.
writing in the early 1900s.
Early 1900s.
Yeah, and what struck me is he had this holistic approach.
Holistic,
He
yeah.
saw this connection between mental and physical health.
Yeah, that's something we're still, I think, grappling with today.
Right.
Trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But he was really ahead of his time, it sounds like.
Yeah, and what I like is how he goes beyond just the typical medical advice.
Right.
He really digs into the roots of unease.
Yeah.
Things like, worry and conscience, faith, work, and even idleness.
Idleness, yeah.
He frames it as a path to serenity.
That's what hooked me, too.
Right.
Right from the start, his thoughts on worry and conscience.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't say just ignore your conscience.
Right.
He's saying that a life that's fulfilling, a life packed with purpose,
Yes.
actually crowds out the space where worry can exist.
He's like, worry thrives in the emptiness, but a life full of meaning and action.
Yeah.
That's the antidote.
And he uses this phrase, he talks about transfiguring common life.
Yes, what a great phrase.
I love that. What does that mean to you?
Well, I don't think he's saying that you need to go on some big pursuit.
Right.
Find some big esoteric thing.
Right.
He's saying find deeper significance in your everyday.
Yeah.
So shift the focus from these anxieties to a larger purpose.
Yeah.
Something that resonates with your core values.
It makes me think about that story he tells about the young man who was cured of nervous exhaustion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not through, typical medical treatment, but through blacksmithing.
It's a great story.
That's a great story. It just shows how you can really quiet a worried mind.
Right.
If you're doing something that you really love that has meaning.
It's meaningful work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this also kind of brings up a question that I had.
Okay.
Because he also talks about inspiration
Yes.
being really essential for serenity.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to link that to this idea of mother religion.
Right.
What is that all about? It sounds a little mystical.
Yeah, it's not a term we hear every day, mother religion.
Right.
But I think what he's getting at is this human need.
Okay.
We have to connect to something larger than ourselves,
Okay.
something that gives us awe and wonder.
So not necessarily organized religion,
Not necessarily.
but more like, I don't know, if you look up at the stars,
Yes.
you're just in awe,
Witnessing nature, yeah.
feeling a sense of belonging.
Yeah, like you're part of something bigger.
So it's less about dogma and more about just tapping into that sense of awe,
Exactly, yeah.
which is interesting coming from a medical doctor.
Very much so. It was unconventional for his time.
I mean, you wouldn't necessarily expect someone in his profession back then to be talking about these things.
Right, exactly.
But it seems like he understood that feeling, that connection to something greater
Yeah.
can have a real impact on our well-being,
Absolutely.
even our physical health.
I think he saw a direct link between having a sense of purpose, however you find it,
Yeah.
and the ability to heal,
To heal.
mentally and physically.
It really makes you think about those times in your own life when you've had like a shift in perspective,
Mm-hmm.
even a small one,
Right.
that's had a positive ripple effect
Yeah.
on your health or just your outlook on life.
Yeah, I think even small realizations can change your energy,
Yeah.
change where you direct your attention.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what he's saying, that
Yeah.
when you open yourself up to this possibility of something larger than yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it helps you transcend those daily worries.
And then there's his take on idleness, which I have to admit kind of surprised me at first.
What do you mean?
Well, we live in a world that's obsessed with productivity.
Always go, go, go.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's actually praising rest and downtime.
He really is.
He even uses the word desultoriness in like a positive way.
I love that.
It's like he's going against the grain.
Absolutely he is.
He's pushing back against this pressure to constantly be doing something.
Yeah, he was really a champion for giving your mind fallow time.
Fallow time.
Yeah, just unstructured thought.
Okay.
Letting go of that conscious control.
So like letting a field lie fallow
Exactly, yeah.
to replenish itself.
To become fertile again.
So is he saying the opposite of what Arnold Bennett's talking about?
In a way, yeah.
How to live on 24 hours a day.
Right.
Bennett's like maximize every minute.
He is, yeah.
And Hall's saying like, no,
Take a break.
we need that rest.
Right.
So it seems like finding that balance is what's crucial.
The balance is key.
Now, speaking of balance, he was very fascinated by what he called the nervous temperament.
Right.
And he saw its strengths. He saw the imagination, the sensitivity,
The awareness.
the awareness, but also the vulnerabilities.
Right.
He saw that people with this temperament are easily disturbed,
Yeah.
prone to worry, very sensitive to their surroundings.
Do you think there are more people like this today?
I don't know. It's a good question.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say, but you know what's interesting is his advice for navigating a world
Yeah.
that can feel overwhelming.
Especially for those with a more sensitive nature.
Yeah.
He understood that the world can feel like just this barrage of overwhelming stimuli.
So what does he suggest? How do we learn to not just survive,
Yeah.
but thrive in a world that doesn't always accommodate that?
Well, he says, cultivate a habit of finding the good in everything.
Okay.
And everyone.
It makes me think about that story,
Which one?
about the woman who tried to eliminate all noise from her life.
Oh, yeah.
She wanted that absolute silence.
Right.
But in doing so, she discovered that even the quietest sounds became unbearable.
That's so powerful.
It is. It's like she was searching for this unattainable ideal.
Right.
Perfect silence.
Yeah, I think it shows the need to adapt,
Adapt.
to find the beauty in imperfection.
Okay, so let's move on to his views on self-control.
Okay.
I have to admit, I found this part a little controversial.
What do you mean?
Well, he's arguing against forcing cheerfulness
Oh, interesting.
or rigidly controlling our thoughts.
So it goes against what we hear a lot about today.
Everything we hear about self-improvement and positive thinking.
Right, right.
But what's his reasoning there?
So he believes that genuine serenity comes from something deeper,
Deeper.
aligning yourself with a larger purpose,
Okay.
a sense of faith.
And he has this quote.
Oh, which one?
He says, "It is not well that we should try to be good, but that we should so dignify our lives with the spirit of good that evil becomes well nigh impossible to us."
Powerful words.
So is he saying the best way to achieve self-control is to not think about self-control at all?
Well, I don't think it's about not thinking about it. I think
Yeah.
it's about recognizing that true self-mastery
Yeah.
doesn't come from gritting your teeth
Okay. Yeah.
and white-knuckling it through life.
Right.
It emerges when your actions flow from a sense of meaning and purpose.
So it's about the why behind the what.
Exactly.
And that brings us to his thoughts on regrets.
Oh, interesting.
He seems to be saying that dwelling on past mistakes is just completely unproductive.
I could see that.
And he actually suggests that true repentance involves focusing on living well now,
In the present.
in the present and in the future.
So don't get caught up in the past.
Let go of the past.
Yeah.
And he's also very skeptical of excessive self-analysis,
Interesting.
especially the kind that leads to despair rather than growth.
Yeah.
And he has this great story about a patient who rediscovered her passion for music
Oh, nice.
after feeling like her life was wasted. And through music, she found a new sense of purpose.
What a great example.
It really shows that regardless of our age or our past experiences, we can always find new avenues for growth
It's always. Yeah.
and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Hall is really getting at.
Yeah.
He's saying that finding meaning, purpose,
Mm.
and inspiration,
That's the path.
that's the key
Yeah.
to achieving that untroubled mind.
It's about shifting our focus from what we lack to what we can create.
Absolutely. And he really emphasizes these virtues, especially patience,
Yeah.
as being crucial for well-being.
Mental and physical.
And he really seems to be saying that real change takes time
It does.
and effort.
You can't rush it.
So it sounds like he's drawing a distinction between like forced patience,
Yes.
you know, that grit your teeth kind of patience,
Mm.
versus a deeper, more sustainable kind of patience.
It comes from understanding
Understanding
the complexities of life
the complexities of life
and accepting them.
and accepting them.
Yeah,
So it's not just about enduring something you don't like.
exactly.
It's more nuanced than that.
Yes, it's about cultivating a deeper understanding of life's challenges
Hmm.
and approaching those difficulties with a calmer perspective.
Okay.
It's patience rooted in wisdom.
Okay, so finally, we need to talk about his perspective on faith healing,
Okay.
especially considering he was a medical doctor.
Yeah, that's interesting.
This feels like something that could be very divisive,
Definitely.
even today.
Yeah, even today.
So what is his take on that?
Well, his take is actually quite balanced.
Balance.
Yeah, he acknowledges the potential of faith healing,
Okay.
but he also cautions against dismissing conventional medicine.
So he's not saying throw out all medical treatments and just rely on prayer.
No, not at all.
So it sounds like he really saw both faith and medicine
Yeah.
as valuable tools in this pursuit of well-being.
It's about finding what works.
Yeah, and it makes you think about, the role of faith, hope, or even just belief in your own healing journey.
Absolutely.
And that can be regardless of your specific religious beliefs.
I think having something to believe in, something that gives you hope,
Yeah,
can be incredibly powerful.
absolutely. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's like he's weaving together these different threads.
Definitely.
Medicine, spirituality, personal growth, it's all connected. And it makes me think about that quote he shares from Middlemarch,
Oh, yes. George Eliot.
where the character's expressing skepticism towards doctors who discuss religion.
It really highlights how forward-thinking Hall was.
Right. Like even back then, it was almost taboo to talk about these things in a medical context.
It was. But Hall seemed to intuitively understand that faith, a sense of purpose, these could have a profound impact on health.
Both mental and physical, right?
Absolutely. He saw that connection very clearly.
And it's interesting. It's not about imposing a specific belief system.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that we as humans seem to have this innate
To
need.
connect to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, to something that gives us a sense of meaning, of belonging.
And that can be so powerful, especially when it comes to healing.
This is where his perspective on faith healing gets really interesting.
It does.
He acknowledges its potential, the power of belief,
He does.
but he also advocates for a balanced approach.
Right.
He's not saying throw out all medical treatment
No.
and just rely on prayer,
He saw both faith and medicine as valuable tools.
each with its own strengths and limitations.
And remember, he was writing this over 100 years ago.
It's pretty remarkable when you think about it.
To even broach the subject of faith healing in a medical context.
It was very progressive.
Yeah.
He even draws a parallel between medical advancements,
Oh, like what?
like the discovery of antitoxin for diphtheria
Right.
and the power of faith.
Okay, I'm listening.
He suggests that both rely on these fundamental laws of the universe,
Interesting.
whether we understand them scientifically or through a lens of faith.
So it's about trusting in that natural order, however we conceive of it.
Exactly. And he doesn't shy away from addressing the criticisms
Right.
that both medicine and faith healing faced,
He was very aware of the skepticism
especially from the medical community.
towards practices like Christian Science.
Right, which was gaining popularity at the time.
And he makes a good point. While acknowledging the potential of faith, he stresses the importance of a solid understanding of the body.
Of disease, of how things work.
It's not about choosing one over the other,
Right.
but recognizing that they both have a place,
It's like he's calling for this more integrated approach to health.
something we're still striving for today.
Absolutely. And this leads to another fascinating part of the book,
What's that?
his emphasis on work,
Work. Interesting.
especially work that engages both the mind and the hands.
I like that.
It's not just about keeping busy.
No.
It's about finding fulfillment through action.
It makes me think of that story he tells about the young man suffering from nervous exhaustion
Oh yeah, the blacksmith.
who found healing through blacksmithing.
Such a great example.
It really highlights the power of, as you said, meaningful work
Right.
to channel that mental energy into a physical pursuit.
It can be so grounding, so therapeutic, and this is where Hall gets really radical.
Okay, how so?
He actually encourages us to embrace periods of idleness.
Idleness. In a world obsessed with productivity.
I know, right? It seems almost counterintuitive, but he calls it fallow time for the mind.
Fallow time.
It's like letting the field lie fallow to replenish itself. And it's the opposite of what, say, Arnold Bennett advocates for.
In How to Live on 24 Hours a Day.
Every minute must be maximized. So it seems like, again, it's about finding that balance.
Right, that sweet spot between purposeful work,
And true rejuvenation.
finding that equilibrium is key.
Okay, so speaking of balance, Hall also talks about this idea of cultivating a lighter touch
A lighter touch.
when it comes to life's challenges. He argues that we often take things too seriously,
I can see that.
burdening ourselves with unnecessary worry and anxiety.
He uses that example of surgeons, right?
Yes. Despite the gravity of their work, they often approach it with a sense of lightness.
The sense of focus.
They understand that dwelling on potential negative outcomes would just hinder their ability to perform.
It's about staying present, focused on the task at hand.
And he's not suggesting we be flippant or insensitive,
Right.
but recognizing that there's a time and place for seriousness.
And for lightheartedness.
Exactly. He tells this charming anecdote about a town meeting
Oh, tell me about it.
where this young man is advocating for a new schoolhouse,
Okay.
and he uses humor to win over the crowd.
And secure the funding.
Such a great example of the power of humor.
To connect with people, to disarm resistance.
And to inspire action. It's not frivolous. It's essential for our well-being. And that brings us to what I found to be one of the most profound parts of the book.
What's that?
His exploration of regrets
Ah, yes.
and how we deal with the past. His perspective is so liberating.
In what way?
He argues that dwelling on the past is unproductive.
Yeah.
That true repentance isn't about wallowing in guilt.
It's about committing to living well now.
In the present and the future.
Letting go of what we can't control.
And he cautions against excessive self-analysis.
Which can sometimes lead to more harm than good.
Exactly. He even tells that story about the patient
Remind me.
who rediscovered her passion for music
Right.
after feeling like her life had been wasted.
It's a beautiful illustration
It is.
of how focusing on our strengths can help us move beyond regret.
Embrace the present moment. It's so empowering.
It really is.
Right.
And it ties into his views on self-control, which are, well, a little unconventional.
I know, right?
What are your thoughts on that? The idea that we shouldn't try too hard to be good?
It's fascinating because it seems to contradict everything we hear these days about self-improvement.
All the focus on positive thinking. But what's he getting at?
It seems like he's challenging this idea.
Of willpower and discipline.
Exactly.
Like we need to constantly police our thoughts and behaviors.
Right. He suggests that true self-mastery comes not from forcing ourselves to be good,
But from something else.
from cultivating a way of life that aligns with our deepest values.
I see.
He seems to believe that when we're living in alignment with our true selves,
Yeah.
the right actions naturally follow.
It's about integrating those values into our very being.
And there's that powerful quote.
Which one?
He says, "It is not well that we should try to be good, but that we should so dignify our lives with the spirit of good that evil becomes well-nigh impossible to us."
Powerful words.
So it's not about denying our shadow side.
Or pretending to be perfect.
It's about cultivating a way of being.
That allows us to navigate life's challenges with grace.
With integrity, with purpose,
And that brings us to his exploration of the virtues.
especially patience,
He sees these virtues not as rules to follow,
the qualities to cultivate.
essential for an untroubled mind.
And he sees them as interconnected, right?
Yeah, like each one supports and strengthens the others.
Creating this tapestry of qualities.
That contribute to a peaceful and fulfilling life.
And he places a special emphasis on patience.
Especially for those struggling with anxiety or nervousness.
He distinguishes between forced patience
That grit your teeth and bear it kind.
versus a deeper, more sustainable patience.
That comes from understanding
Acceptance.
and a broader perspective.
He suggests that this deeper patience arises from a willingness to accept things as they are
To acknowledge that change takes time,
and to trust in the unfolding of events.
even when they don't go according to plan.
It's not about passively accepting whatever happens.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we don't always have control.
Of external circumstances.
But our inner state,
Mhm.
that's what shapes our experience.
And that ties into his views on faith and belief, right?
Plus, he suggests that having something to believe in,
Something that gives us hope.
a sense of meaning,
It can be incredibly transformative.
and he acknowledges that faith healing might not always cure physical ailments,
It's true.
but he sees it as a powerful force for mental and emotional healing,
He talks about the attitude of prayer
this opening of the heart,
to something greater than ourselves,
as having a profound impact on our inner state.
regardless of our specific beliefs.
He even suggests that the peace that can come from this connection
This communion,
can be more healing than any medicine.
it's about tapping into a source of strength that transcends our limited understanding.
It's about recognizing that we're not alone in our struggles,
That there's a force of love and goodness underlying the universe.
and we can tap into this force in so many ways,
Through prayer, meditation, simply by cultivating a sense of awe.
and it's empowering,
It allows us to face challenges with a sense of hope,
knowing that we're supported.
even in the midst of difficulty,
It's about trusting that everything will ultimately be okay.
even if we don't understand why or how.
It's so liberating.
Freeing us from the need to control everything.
Just figure everything out.
It's about surrendering to the mystery.
And the beauty of life.
And that's what Hall is guiding us towards.
Recognizing our inherent wholeness.
our connection to something larger than ourselves,
And trusting in the unfolding of life.
even when it's messy and unpredictable.
This exploration of worry, conscience, faith, work, idleness.
It's so rich.
It's such a rich tapestry of perspectives on achieving inner peace.
It's not a quick fix,
No, it's a lifelong journey.
a journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely. That we can tap into that for support,
It can be so grounding.
even amidst uncertainty and fear.
Exactly. And I think this ties into his discussion of work and finding meaning in our everyday lives.
Because when we feel connected to something larger,
It gives us a sense of perspective.
it does.
It helps us to see beyond our immediate worries and fears.
Right.
And, even if we're not in our dream jobs,
Yeah.
we can still find ways to bring meaning and purpose to our work.
And that can be so powerful.
It really can. It's about finding those little things that make a difference.
Those small acts of kindness, diligence, excellence.
Yes, it's about bringing our best selves to whatever we do.
And remembering that work is not the only source of meaning.
Right.
We can also find fulfillment.
In our relationships, hobbies, spiritual practices.
It's about cultivating that holistic sense of purpose.
Exactly.
And I think that's what Hall is really advocating for, a life that's infused with meaning.
Purpose and connection.
It's not a quick fix,
No, it's a lifelong journey
a self-discovery.
and transformation.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into the untroubled mind, I'm curious to hear your final thoughts. What are you taking away from this exploration?
Well, for me, it's this reminder that we all have the capacity for an untroubled mind.
We do.
It's not about eliminating all challenges or difficulties.
It's about cultivating that inner strength,
Resilience,
the wisdom
the faith,
to navigate those challenges,
with a sense of peace.
and equanimity.
It's recognizing that true peace comes from within.
And that we're not alone on this journey.
We're supported by something much greater than ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we can always tap into that source of strength and wisdom when we need it.
It's been such a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise, it's always a great conversation.
And for our listeners, we would love to hear your reflections.
What resonated with you
What practices or perspectives are you inspired to explore?
in your own quest for an untroubled mind?
Until next time, keep diving deep.